days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Time to talk about news. Because the 49ers have a lot of news that's surrounding their football team, not to mention all the news surrounding the NFC West. Because moves are aplenty. Quarterbacks are on the move. Could Jimmy Garoppolo be on the move as well?
Maybe. Look, I mean, the Russell Wilson news and information means that Jimmy Garoppolo's value is starting to become a little clearer. And for all of the people who said they're just going to have to cut him, there's no value, he doesn't offer you anything, take note, y'all. Take note of what Russell Wilson just got. Is Jimmy Garoppolo getting that? No. Are we getting anywhere near that for Jimmy Garoppolo? Absolutely not. But when a team believes they're a quarterback away from being a team that can not only maybe win it all, but put themselves in the playoffs and put themselves in the contention, and they're willing to pay what is necessary in order to make that happen, because quarterbacks are very hard to find.
Yeah, they are. And you've got a very specific set of, quarterbacks that are out there. Most of them haven't been, very successful as starters. Now, the question has been, would Deshaun Watson be one of the players these teams would be interested in? Here can put a little bit of problem in that. Number one, the civil thing is still going. Number two, the district attorney is going to the grand jury about a possibility of criminal charges. So I would say that every single NFL team right now is pushing pause on the possible Deshaun Watson thing.
So you mean all the reports coming out that said people were basically willing to risk it all for Deshaun, despite all the legal situations going on, may not be willing to risk it all right now?
I think civil situations you are willing to risk it all. Criminal situations,
not so much.
Yeah, because usually that carries at least a year-long suspension from the NFL as well. You're not going to trade multiple picks for Deshaun Watson and then turn around and not have Deshaun Watson, but you're going to be eating all that salary. So no, I think this puts Jimmy Garoppolo firmly at the top of the quarterback trade market. So there's some teams out there that are going to have to bid for his services. This was good news for the 49ers.
Great news.
You saw it. Aaron Rodgers, new contract information comes out.
Well, Rodgers dispels the contract info, specifics.
He's agreeing he agreed to a contract.
He did agree to a contract.
That's all that matters.
That's
because
really
as soon
all that
as
matters.
that happened...
Well, now the market's set. The market's set, and the market is now officially right. The things that were holding up Jimmy are now out of the way.
Well, only because Russell Wilson got moved.
Correct.
You kind of jumped the shark. That's what happened. He got moved, or he made the deal, and as soon as Russell Wilson got moved, it opened up everything wide open for the 49ers and Russell Wilson. I guarantee that John Lynch was very happy to take phone calls after that move happened.
2 first.
There's no way they're getting 2 first, but I think it is in the realm of possibilities now for 2 2s.
Absolutely.
And we were talking, earlier last week about his potential. It was everything, all signs were pointing towards a 3 and a 4. I think that was realistic. And now it appears that if they could walk away with a 2 or 2 2s, I think everyone would be very excited about that.
What about a 2 and a player?
Oh, I would love a 2 and a player, depending on what the player is.
Accurate,
yeah. And that's the thing, is who are the Commanders going to send, or who are the Steelers going to send? Or if the Steelers want to send us Chase Claypool, great. If the Commanders want to send us Young, great. I don't think they're going to, though. So, I mean, that's the thing. What value are you going to get for one of these, for Jimmy Garoppolo? We'll see. We'll see if there's a bidding war. We'll see if one of these guys just are like, you know what, we have to get Jimmy because Jimmy's a better viable option than the quarterbacks that are currently available.
And that's not a crazy statement. It was a crazy statement while the potential for Russ, the potential for Aaron, and the potential for Deshaun were out there. It was a far-fetched statement to say Jimmy's the best available option out there. That's no longer the case. All 3 of these guys are either with their new team, signed up with their old team, or dealing with other things that may prevent them from getting on the football field. Jimmy Garoppolo is not. Yeah, he had shoulder surgery, and that's the other bit of news we need to talk about. His surgery was a success. It seems like there's not a lot of issues there. They're hoping he can actually rehab and get back a little sooner than they were anticipating and hoping, and start throwing before that July period, period of time that they had set in place when they announced the surgery to begin with. If that's the case, then, again, I've heard people talk about this. The surgery is going to lower his value. The surgery lowers his value. The surgery, for a guy whose issue has always been health and availability, getting a surgery to make sure that he's healthy and available day one at 100% is not something that's going to hold up his value.
I think that also the medical being out there now, right? He'll have the surgery, so a team doctor will be able to look at the results of that surgery and determine, if that shoulder is going to be, going the right direction. If they feel good that it's successful, then one of these teams is going to move forward with going ahead and moving on and getting a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's an affordable option. He's something that, teams are going to be willing to do. And I don't think the shoulder is going to hold it up anymore, because the real thing is having Jimmy Garoppolo there for training camp. It's not so much mini camps or all that stuff. You just need him in the building to learn. You know what he can do with a shoulder injury? He can still learn while he's rehabbing. But if you make the trade, you know what you also do? You get Jimmy Garoppolo in your building, able to train and work with your trainer, so that way they can make sure he gets healthy. So that's important. So I think this is something that needed to happen. I'm not one that has as big a problem with him waiting a month, because I do believe that anytime that surgery is you can avoid surgery, you do that, especially with shoulders and especially with quarterbacks. I know that I have bad shoulders, and the doctor told me if you can avoid surgery, avoid surgery. So I have been doing that. Jimmy Garoppolo tried to. It wasn't going the right direction, so they made the move and decided to get surgery, and I'm not really worried about it. I don't think this hurts his trade value that much. Everyone knows what they're getting from Jimmy Garoppolo. Plus, he already proved he could still throw the football, at least with some velocity in the playoffs. I don't think it was as serious as people thought.
Definitely wasn't. He played through an avulsion fracture on the thumb with the shoulder stuff going on and the needing capsule surgery. Was able to do it at a high level, well, fairly high level, and good enough level to get you to an NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder. I mean, now it makes you wonder what would happen if you had a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo. Could the 49ers have actually, went farther? But we don't.
Possibly. And
we're moving on. And he's going to get traded, and we know he's going to get traded. The cut thing doesn't seem as likely now. He's going to get moved for something. Just how much is it going to get now? And that's the thing I think I'm the most excited about, is seeing what that return is going to be and where that puts the 49ers in the draft, because I would love for the 49ers to be able to turn that into, a second round pick, because there's a lot of good players right in that area.
Absolutely.
The 49ers could get a lot better. Like you said, there's always the possibility of a player. If it's the right player and an impact player that can help this team, I think all signs are pointing to the 49ers moving in a direction that is about winning this season.
Stunned, Ant. Stunned that the Niners are moving in the direction about winning the season. It's almost like they have a window open and a Super Bowl roster and a team that was in a Super Bowl 2 years ago, just made an NFC Championship game. It's crazy to think that they're still in that position, and they're going to try and maybe go all in and maybe, make sure they get that Super Bowl right now and not, test the waters and just dip the toe in. And we're going to talk about that a little more next week. We'll have a video discussing why we may think one way or the other the Niners will go all in, or if they already have, and maybe you just don't realize it yet. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button as well. And let's talk about what Field Yates called, and the biggest news of the day. It wasn't the Russell Wilson stuff yesterday. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers going back to Green Bay. It was Keaton Sutherland, not Kiefer Sutherland, Keaton Sutherland, a former Bengals practice squad offensive lineman, signing a contract with the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Reportedly.
I don't know if we're going to get a Jack Bauer situation out of this. I would love that. But Keaton Sutherland, it's a guy that was on the practice squad, so kind of what you're getting there. I think they're filling out the 90-man roster. This is one of those things where you're doing due diligence, and he's an interior offensive lineman that you don't mind bringing in. So I don't read too much into this. I don't expect Keaton Sutherland to be an impact player for the 49ers, but you bring him in, you see what he can do in your system. And, he's not the guard everyone wants to see signed, but he's the guard we got right now. So Keaton, not Lakin, is so far signed to the 49ers. But, yeah, this is something we had to talk about because the Niners made the move. So in the midst of all the things going on with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, the Niners get Sutherland.
They get a Sutherland, not Kiefer Sutherland, not 24, but 74.
Yeah.
And maybe not the 70 number you were hoping to see in Lincoln Tomlinson 75, but it's there. One baby step at a time. And some of you may be going, well, if they can sign this guy, why don't they just, it's reportedly, it won't be official until we obviously get to the new league year and things of that nature. But apparently the contract is at least worked out right now between both sides of both parties.
Well, what's interesting, right, is the 49ers are supposed to be $1 million over the cap, but yet they're able to sign somebody to to their roster. So expect incoming moves to be made. I'm sure that there's going to be some announcements about restructurings or extensions moving forward. The 49ers need to get under that salary cap by March 16th. Their top 51 players count against it. One of those guys right now is still Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, if they can move him,
or maybe we're all just, the Niners don't leak, maybe we're just 5 steps behind and they already have a deal done.
With who?
Oh.
Oh, with Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, they could. I mean, it could be one of those things where they've had
ironing out details.
They have a deal in place, but they're waiting maybe on Jimmy to get through surgery, so the doctors can look at the reports and all that. I think that's entirely possible. I think the Jimmy thing could happen at any time now. I think we just got to be on watch because Jimmy could get moved at any time, and we'll see. I do think it's going to happen before March 16th, but I know some people are floating out there. Maybe they would wait longer, but I just don't think so. They need that $25 million to be able to go and build a team around Trey Lance, and they need that money to be able to re-sign some of their guys. If not, they're going to let some of their guys hit market, and they just can't let that happen.
You don't want to make that happen. You don't want that to be the case. You would rather, the best case scenario is to move Jimmy before the deadline, so that way you only have to go to players to restructure as needed, right? We're going to sign this guy. We need to free up this much money. Let's bring in person A. Let's bring in Armstead and restructure. Let's bring in Jimmy Ward. Let's extend the contract and void a year. That's the only reason you want to have to do that. You don't want to just start doing it to do it. And that's what some teams do. Some teams just do that, right? They start doing these things and moving pieces around beforehand, before they sign players, because they want the availability to go after whoever they want. And there's a little more particular about how they do this, and meticulous about how they go about handling this. And I appreciate that as someone who enjoys a team operating as if the salary cap doesn't exist, and pushing money so far down the road that eventually you end up like the Saints, $88 million over the cap, because you're not paying attention to 10 years down the road. And then you look 10 years down the road, you get to 3 years down the road, and you're like, oh crap, we're kind of in a pickle here. I wonder what we're going to do about it. The Saints are doing what they can, but it's going to cost them some time in terms of them having a competitive organization, a team. The Niners have the roster right now.
Is it? I mean, right now there's the reports, right, that are coming out that one of the most interesting things coming out of the combine is the Saints are interested in Jimmy Garoppolo.
Not happening.
Why not?
How are they going to make it work?
I don't know. They've obviously got a plan, because they've already shaved off over $30 million and created some cap space.
And they still got $40 million to go.
Yeah, they do.
And you're talking about taking on $25 million, and some of the guys we talked about moving off of already are going to have too big of a salary cap hit for it to make up the difference.
Well, not if you extend Jimmy Garoppolo and lower his cap hit to a really low number. You're moving on from Teron Armstead, probably.
Most likely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there is a possibility they could work this thing out. It's just, are they ready to go with Jimmy Garoppolo over Jameis Winston? I know it ain't going to be Taysom Hill.
They would be silly if it's Taysom Hill.
But, I mean, if they got Jimmy Garoppolo, would you be worried about New Orleans in the NFC?
I don't know about worried, but I think it makes them, it keeps them in that relevant category.
I mean, because they were literally a game away from being in the playoffs last year and causing some issues.
They're not going anywhere. And so, I mean, if Jimmy Garoppolo is there, they're probably making the playoffs. They're a team you have to keep an eye on.
Michael Thomas is coming back because he's about to have 200 catches over the middle.
You're not wrong, Ant.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it was an interesting thought, because we didn't think the money was viable at all, but the fact that there's a little bit of conversation about it, and I don't think that it would come from the 49ers just to drum up interest. They had enough other teams that they didn't need to bring New Orleans into the fold.
No, they didn't need to. But I do think it puts the fear of God into the Washington Commanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think those are the two teams that were competing most heavily for Jimmy Garoppolo, and if you add the Saints in as well, it makes them really think about it, right? Especially if you're the Commanders. I'm the only team in the NFC that has a chance to land him. I'm the only other team that can make this move right now, that is willing to give up the capital. The Eagles probably won't do it. They won't have the guts to do it. All of these other things, and then you drop the Saints in there and into the bucket, and the reality is they don't have a quarterback situation figured out. So it may make the Commanders think twice about what they have to give up.
I think it also puts pressure on Carolina.
That it does also.
Carolina's been working on freeing up cap space for the entire week. So I think, Shaq just did it, and he's a local guy, and he just restructured his contract, freed up a bunch of cap space for Carolina. So
True.
Shaq Thompson doing his part maybe to get Jimmy Garoppolo to Carolina. We know they don't have a quarterback.
No, they do not.
And after 2 years, do you think Matt Rule is very secure in his situation?
Oh, heck no. He has to win.
Yeah.
He has to win. Much like Ron Rivera right now, he's sitting there going, I feel like I have the defense, right? I feel like I have the pieces to compete. We just need someone who doesn't screw the pooch.
And it came out that they want a player and a first-round pick for Christian McCaffrey.
Not happening in San Francisco.
No, we were not giving no first.
We don't have a first-round pick the next 2 years to give.
That's the value. That's the value for Christian McCaffrey.
That's about what it should be. So
okay.
I mean,
I'm just saying,
based on
if they're willing to get off Christian McCaffrey, they're trying to free up some more money.
Well, if they're trying to get off Christian McCaffrey, they're 100% trying to free up more money. The only problem is Christian McCaffrey, you should get a first-round pick and probably a player, But based on what's happened the last few years with him and the health, I don't think anyone should be giving up a first-round pick or a player.
It all depends, because now you've got an arms race in the AFC West. They pick up Russell Wilson in Denver. I mean, it was within like 20 minutes that you found out that they signed that the Los Angeles Rams brought their player back, their wide receiver. Sure. These guys are about to go all in. Could you see Kansas City or somebody like that being like, you know what, we're gonna spring for Christian McCaffrey?
How are they going to?
Why are you worried? They always come up with money.
I'm aware that they always come up with money. It just doesn't make any sense, Ant. Yeah. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand it. And you know what? I never will understand how the rest of these teams somehow find a way to finagle this out. How could you be paying him? How could you pay him so much money? You're paying him close to $1 billion in Patrick Mahomes, and you can still afford other people?
Well, I mean, we don't know exactly what Aaron Rodgers' contract is going to look like, but they're also franchise tagging Davante Adams as well.
I'm stunned by that, Ant.
Yeah, so it's going to be over $20 million for Davante Adams.
Bye-bye is the Darius Smith.
Oh, yeah, they are. That's the rumor they're going to cut him.
They're going to cut him. Yeah, that's good. This is what I mean, right? In order to keep all these people and pay them the amount of money they want to pay, it does two things. It, yes, keeps you strong at that position, but it weakens you in other areas. The Niners haven't always been willing to do that with certain guys or with the amount of guys. They've found that balance. They've tried to find that balance anyway. And speaking of finding balance, the 49ers coaching staff has finally balanced out, and they filled all the roster spots. And in a surprising twist, Ant, in a very shocking twist and turn of events, we had a special teams coach who got signed, Ant, that we basically said was probably going to happen most likely. Brian Schneider ends up with the San Francisco 49ers. He is the special teams coach coming into the season now. It was just a name that we saw that kind of made sense. There were some connections there with Kyle Shanahan, and it ends up working out.
He's a huge upgrade. You know, I mean, he really is. He's a good special teams coach. There are some questions though. You know, he's had a couple of years where he's opted out for personal reasons. So you're hopeful that this guy can be in there. You would think that Kyle Shanahan has vetted him enough to know what those situations are, that he's all in for this. But if he is, yeah, you expect a nice improvement from your special teams unit over what Hightower was giving you. So I look for them to be more aggressive. I look for this 49ers team in general to be more aggressive on offense, defense, and special teams and really get after it. And I think this is a signal that goes that way. But he's a very good special teams coach, and he's going to be dynamite for this team. I think this is going to be a huge improvement, and I'm curious to see in what areas they improve the fastest.
Absolutely. They also brought in Stephen Gokey, defensive quality control coach. Ant was at the University of Michigan last season. This guy spent a lot of time in a lot of different areas, including my Florida Gators with one Dan Mullen. So he was there for a little bit of time as well. Kind of been all over the place. He's going to be the defensive quality control coach. James Craig becomes the assistant offensive line coach behind Chris Forrester.
Yeah, they needed to go ahead and make that move. They had lost their assistant offensive line coach. He went to Denver to become their head line coach. So this was a normal transition. You got to pick up somebody else because you're always preparing for the next guy. So see Kyle Shanahan grabbing out and getting guys that are experienced, but also young guys that they feel like they can develop. So this is a nice move by him, just filling out the roster.
It was. Were you surprised at all by Chris Forrester being promoted to not promoted, but receiving the run game coordinator title?
I think that the conventional wisdom was that it was going to be Anthony Lynn. But to me, this makes sense with Anthony Lynn taking over as a running back. He had played running back for Bobby Turner. So if there's anyone Bobby Turner's going to trust running back position to, it's going to be Anthony Lynn. I think that this makes sense because the offensive line coach is so in tune with what the run game needs to do. Plus, he's been well-traveled. He's been all over the place, including a stop in Miami. I know it ended in bad circumstances with white powder and other things and pictures that shouldn't go out. But he was an offensive coordinator nonetheless, so he's been able to prepare at that level. So I think he's one of those guys that, yeah, you're trusting his ability on the field. Off the field, hopefully he's made a lot of changes, but which we know he has because he's back in the league. But yeah, I think this is solid, and this is not different than what what happened with the Jets. The Jets, when they hired John Benton away from the 49ers,
true,
he became their run game coordinator. So Forrester being experienced, you can kind of see the way that Kyle Shanahan does it. He likes to take an experienced person and then a non-experienced person, and he kind of puts them on opposite sides of each other. To me, it makes a lot of sense, and Forrester will be a stabilizing force, in those rooms and in those meetings. And remember, Kyle Shanahan's biggest part of his game planning is usually on the passing game side. That's what he did last year. I expect him to do the same thing. So the run game, now he can go with a guy that he trusts to bring in a game plan that he can go with.
Could it also be that the idea there behind this with Forrester being the run game coordinator is you have a guy in James Craig that's coming in, an assistant O-line coach that's going to be able to, he's done some different things across the league as well, that he's going to be able to lean on him a little bit more because he's going to have to focus on the run game a little bit.
No, I mean, when you're talking about the offensive line, I mean, really a lot of it with the run game, you're doing all that stuff post the game, right? You're watching the film and you're coming up with the next game plan before you ever even get to practice. So on-field work and in those meetings, yeah, there's extra work, but you're already working on that with the offensive line. You would have had to learn that run game anyways from like a Mike McDaniel. The only difference is now you're the one that's putting it together. The fact that he's been with the 49ers offense for a while, he's been with Shanahan's for a while, he understands how they operate. So this just makes sense to me. I don't think it'll be overwhelming for him. I'm sure they do somewhat feel confident with the assistant line coach, Craig, being able to do what he's supposed to do. But no, I think they're expecting Forrester to be able to handle all of it.
I like that too, there, and I really do. And Joe Graves is another guy who's an assistant offensive line coach for the 49ers. They just signed him, I believe it was from Georgia Southern, correct?
Yeah, it was from Georgia Southern.
28, young guy coming in. Has been a lot of different places, including what was supposed to be going back to Louisiana Monroe, University of Louisiana Monroe. They actually even put out, you brought up in our pre-show, they put out a press release saying he was going to become their offensive coordinator or their
tight ends coach.
Tight ends coach.
Yeah.
So he comes in instead to be an assistant offensive line coach. This is a guy who's been a running back coach at a couple of different stops as a coach at the collegiate level. Very interesting, young guy, obviously a lot of potential, and Kyle Shanahan feels very comfortable with.
Yeah,
because he's not coming in as a quality control guy, Ant.
No, it's smart, right? You got a guy that's used to dealing with running backs. He's used to dealing with the run game, and now he's going to go in and work with these guys in that area. I'm sure he's going to give some help to Chris Forrester in that area. But yeah, this is what you do. You hire good coaches and young coaches that you believe you can develop, because eventually you're probably going to have to replace Chris Forrester with one of these other guys. So you bring him in. You're hoping like Butch Berry that they don't leave and get an offensive line job somewhere else, that eventually they can be your guy.
Absolutely. That's what you want, right? It's every dream. It's every coach's dream.
Yeah.
Brian Fleury obviously got promoted to tight ends coach, and Leonard Hankerson gets promoted up to wide receivers coach. And we got Brian Greasy, the new quarterbacks coach, officially now. It's official, folks. It's official. It's not hyperbole. It's not speculation. It's official. Brian Greasy, the quarterbacks coach. 49ers Twitter still doesn't know what to make of it, Ant. 50% hate it, 50% love it. I can't believe Kyle Shanahan went with a guy that he's familiar with to coach his quarterbacks and understands his system, and they promoted Clay Kubiak to assistant quarterbacks coach as well.
Yeah, I love this. I love the Brian Greasy move, because it's a guy that's been in those situations that Trey Lance is going to be in, right? If you don't have a veteran quarterback in the room, now you don't have to worry about that because you have Brian Greasy. He's seen it all. He's been every place. He backed up John Elway when he came in as a rookie. So he's seen the way Elway handled Mike Shanahan's system. So he knows the ins and outs of the offense. He also played for John Gruden. I think that there's a lot to be said about the experience that he'll be able to bring. Not to mention, when people are talking about head-scratching moves, a head-scratching move would be criticizing a guy that just spent 7 years breaking down college football. He was an analyst for college football for ESPN before he was Monday Night Football. So he's been around watching all these guys not detached from the game. I think it's a solid move. And yeah, it's somebody that Kyle Shanahan is comfortable with. Here's a news flash. When I was a coach, I always went out and got guys I was comfortable with because I knew I could trust them to do their job. And I know they would know what I wanted them to do. It is a smart move if you can. Yeah, of course, you want to reach out and grab good coaches if you don't have someone qualified. But usually when you play the position in the NFL for 11 years and your dad is a Hall of Fame quarterback, you usually have the general knowledge to be able to be a quarterback coach. Because guess what you're not doing? He's not going to be in there teaching technique and all that. Trey's doing that right now in Southern California with John Beck and those guys. What he's going to be doing is going over what coverages he's seeing, how they're tipping their hand, instituting the game plan, all the mental aspects of playing quarterback. And that's what he's going to be expected to work with Trey Lance on.
How do you go through your progressions?
Yep.
Where should you be looking when you see this? Where should you be getting the ball out? Is this a situation where you should be trying to hold here and make a play, or do you just take this underneath based on what you're seeing or what you think you're seeing? Because there are certain situations where Greasy's going to be able to take that film, look at it, and go, look, I've been in this position before, kid. I've seen this right here. I've been exactly in this thought process, this mindset. I think I got this. I think I could take this chance here, and I've taken that chance. And it hasn't panned out. Most of the time, it's not going to pan out. Unless you know for sure in this moment, in this situation, this is not that time to take that shot. This is the time to live to fight another day. Those types of things, imparting that wisdom on him, Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo imparted that wisdom on him in a sense last year, but now he's getting it from a different person, right? Someone else who isn't Jimmy Garoppolo, who isn't competing with him for the starting job, that he doesn't have to sit there and think to himself in his head, is there an ulterior motive for you telling me this now? It's his coach. It's the guy who's supposed to be, who is here specifically to get the best out of him, right? And that's going to help that relationship, and it's a different lens. Jimmy Garoppolo and the way he sees the game, Kyle Shanahan, the way he sees the game, John Beck, the gentleman he's working with over there at 3D QB, whatever it is. It's got like 15 letters and a couple of numbers. With Tom House and all those other guys, they all have their own lens. There's nothing wrong with adding another lens and a lens that played quarterback in the NFL for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and I love the Clay Kubiak. I love it. He's already been a quarterback coach. So you also couple the fact that his dad is freaking the man. I mean, he literally knew what was going on. He was the backup for so many years. He coached with the 49ers. He coached in Denver. Gary Kubiak has been a very accomplished coach in this league, and he's got some sons that are on their way up as coaches. And I love
are doing it very similar ways to Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah,
not with dad at the start, not around dad in other places.
They were with dad.
Well,
they were with dad in Minnesota
for like a year, right?
Yeah, he was with dad in Minnesota, but. Kyle Shanahan, he got his start with Kubiak. Now he's helping Kubiak get his start. Kubiak is going to be a fast riser. Don't be surprised if he doesn't turn this assistant, quarterback coach into something eventually, because Slowick is going to rise quick. Slowick could be gone here in no time, and then you're going to be talking about Kubiak possibly being a pass game coordinator or, a run game coordinator or an offensive coordinator, depending on what Kyle Shanahan needs to do to keep you around, because he does not have an offensive coordinator right now, shockingly.
In a stunning move,
yeah.
He doesn't have one. Bobby Slowick, though, is a guy that you just talked about, promoted to offensive passing game coordinator. And Ant, pre-show, you had an interesting tidbit on Mr. Slowick. I'm always a fan of guys who who really have to climb up the ladder and the rung here. How far has this guy climbed?
From being assistant videographer for the Washington then Redskins in like 2011. Yeah, this is Kyle was there, Mike was there. It was head coach was Mike Shanahan. So think about that. Slowick's on the staff with all those guys. Of course, I'm sure he's not like sitting in all the meetings and all that, but he's worked his way up. He's been quality control coach. He's been defensive quality control coach. He's been offensive. He's just moving around, and now he's progressing through Kyle Shanahan's system. He fits the mold. What do they like to get? These smart guys who understand football. Slowick's one of those guys. He's a fast riser. I look to see how quickly he jumps onto the radar of other NFL teams as this passing game for the 49ers possibly takes another step forward with Trey Lance as the quarterback.
I mean, really, and some of you may be thinking, well, I mean, he's only a passing game coordinator. He's been in the league since 2011. He was filming. He was filming.
And he actually had 2 years he wasn't in the league after Washington didn't retain him when Mike Shanahan left.
So that means 2011 he was filming, 2012, 2013, nothing. 2014, he ends up back in the league.
No, he was 2013. I think 2012 and 2013, Shanahan was still in.
Oh, that's right. He was still there.
It was 2014 and 2015. He's not in the league. Yeah,
correct. So I mean, that's crazy to be a guy who's doing film for a couple of years there in the league, to doing nothing, to then getting onto a roster and start working your way up from quality control to where he is now.
He's been back with the 49ers since 2017. He's been with the Niners.
That's nuts. So, I mean, this is a guy that Shanahan trusts. This is a guy he values. It's a guy that he believes can do something and is learning and is proving himself and his worth, and has been biding his time. And now he's been rewarded because of that patience and dedication and the amount of work that he's put in.
Yeah, and one thing that I've heard kind of some people on social media talking about is how coaches are going to different positions, right? Like they're defensive quality control, but then they're becoming a tight ends coach. A lot of times you're coaching a bunch of different positions. You can be a defensive coach, but it's because you have an offensive mindset. So you're talking to the offensive coaching staff about how that defense plans to attack the offense and that sort of thing. So Mike Mangini famously was hired, by Harbaugh to be one of the defensive assistants to game plan against what Harbaugh would do. So this is pretty common. You do move a lot through coaching ranks. You'll running back coach, tight end coach. It doesn't really matter because when you're a coach, you're learning all the positions and you're working really hard at it.
Accurate. I mean, my first stint as a coach at the high school level, and as you know, was offensive coordinator, but my skill position was quarterback. Mm-hmm. I didn't play quarterback in high school. I played wide receiver. So coming in and teaching quarterbacks and things of that nature when I didn't necessarily have a quarterback background, not a challenge because I knew what I wanted system-wise. I knew what was supposed to be executed, right? And you do your prep work and you go from there. That's commonplace. That's commonplace for guys to be moving around from position to position. and doing different things than maybe what your forte is or your specialty is. But the reason for you being there isn't necessarily so you can work on your specialty. It's so that you can provide insight against that specialty.
Well, and here's the thing. If you're a coach and you have aspirations of being a coordinator, you need to understand offense and defense, and you need to understand how to coach every single position on staff, because eventually you want to be a coordinator, which you're in control of all those offensive staff members, and then you want to be a head coach eventually, and you have to be able to coach every single position. It's the natural progression of things. You don't just understand one specialized position. There are coaches that only want to do that. See Chris Kasarik, see Bobby Turner. Those are guys that is their career goal, to coach one position. They do it very well. But most coaches and young coaches have aspirations to not only run their own offense someday, but run their own football team.
Accurate, Ant. Hence why Kyle Shanahan was sitting in defensive meetings as a young whippersnapper quality control coach offensively in his early days. You're trying to understand as much as you can.
And it makes you a better offensive coordinator. If you're sitting in on defensive meetings and understanding how defense works, then you know how offense works. Yeah, they go hand in hand. You have to understand the other one. So, Richard Sherman, that's what made him such a good corner. He understood what offensive concepts were, where players were going to be at certain times when they were in this look. These were the 3 plays. Then all of a sudden you get emotion out of it and it eliminates it to 2 plays. And then the receiver's alignment is in a certain situation and it eliminates to 1 play. Next thing you know, he's got a pick.
Yeah, I mean, we remember this on Twitter, him roasting Crocker, talking about how to cover receivers and how to understand routes and what they're going to be running. And Crocker's talking about all these different things receivers could do, and he's like, no, stop this. You study the coordinator.
Yeah.
You understand what the offensive coordinator is going to do, because if you know what the offensive coordinator wants to do, situations he puts his team is, you know what they're going to do 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, Eric Davis was in the same conversation and quoted as, "You'll be chasing ghosts." Is exactly how he broke it down. Yeah.
Good times. Good times. Good old Richard Sherman. And he has not, by the way, he's not stopped roasting people. Richard Sherman is still Richard Sherman.
Yeah, and you know what? Richard Sherman is very smart. I mean, he knows what's going on. Somebody to watch, just so everyone knows, watch Bobby Wagner in the next few weeks, because Bobby Wagner was not very excited about the Russell Wilson move, and just said Richard Sherman was right.
Sherm's a prophet.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
What's up, 54?
What's up, 54? Indeed. What's up? And we could talk about another 54 too from the 49ers, but we're talking about coaches right now. Let's stick with that. Anthony Lynn, obviously assistant head coach, running backs coach. He takes over for this season while Bobby Turner is recovering and rehabbing with his knees. Asani Rufus, offensive quality control coach. They just brought him in as well. Deuce Schwartz, offensive quality control as well. And Nick Sorensen, a guy that you're very, very, wouldn't say you're extremely familiar with him, but you're excited about it, Ant, getting brought in to the James Betcher type role as the defensive assistant.
Yeah, I love it. The reason I love it is because of the response from the Seattle Seahawks, defensive backs. Quadri Diggs was one of the ones that was like really into it. It's like, oh my gosh, the 49ers got an absolute gem. They were coming out, and whenever players start saying things like that about a coach that gets hired, you take a little bit of look at it, which means he could be on a fast track. I know a lot of people aren't seeing it right now, but I think this guy could be somebody there could be grooming to be the next defensive coordinator when D'Amico Ryans leaves. Because he's had a lot of success in the Seattle system, so understand the basis for which the 49ers run defense. And then now he's there to learn, and he's there to help. And I think that this could be a nice transition if that is what eventually happens, and D'Amico Ryans gets a head coaching job next year.
And it would be a very smooth transition over this guy who's played in the NFL. He's been a secondary defender in the NFL. Ant, don't know if 49ers fans know this, spent a lot of time in Seattle while the Legion of Boom was there, with one Robert Saleh as well, so understands the scheme already. You and I pre-show, looking at it going, where did Kyle Shanahan and this guy cross paths at some point? Someone had to have introduced him. Robert Saleh while he was in Seattle. Duh. Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a connection with Kyle Shanahan, and this is it. But I think this guy is a good football coach. I think he's going to be able to help that defense. That was a solid hire by them, so...
I don't think they didn't have a bad one. There's not a name on this list that I'm looking at going, who, wait, what, how, why?
I think some of the quality control coaches are like, who are these guys? But this is how you break in. What you have to do is trust Kyle Shanahan, because when he hires quality control coaches, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, when he hires guys like this, even Brian Fleury, they end up being something big for your team. Mike McDaniel, another one. These guys, 3 of those guys are head coaches. So you want to get into the NFL and you want to break in, and you want to eventually be a coordinator or a head coach, you go be a quality control coach for Kyle Shanahan. And that's why when people say...
I guess we could say Rich Scangarello. He's the offensive coordinator to Kentucky now.
Yeah, Rich Scangarello, he's had some time with Kyle Shanahan as well. There's always opportunities when you're on a staff like this, and the Kyle Shanahan system that is, trending. Of course, we got McVay doing his thing, LaFleur, and then Salah's got, the floor up there as well.
It's true. He does have a full floor there.
McDaniel in Florida and with Miami. So this thing is going all over the place. It's just a matter of time before you get Kubiak getting a job. It's going to happen. It's going to continue to spread because seems to be the West Coast offense of this century.
That is accurate, and it is looking that way. It is trending that way. And Cutback Crew, let us know what you thought about all of this news, all of these coaches' signings, the Keaton Sutherland addition to San Francisco. How big was that? We want to hear from you in the comment section down below. Jimmy surgery going well, and the Russ news. And listen, I know you're sitting there going, guys, talk more about it. Look, Russ going is obviously a great, wonderful thing, and we'll give you reactions and full everything on the live stream at a night of all nights. You don't want to miss that at, what is it, one more day?
Yeah, it's one more day.
Oh my gosh, it is a Thursday.
You got ahead of...
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Oh, I was so excited, and I thought we were doing it tonight. Well, I guess we'll have to wait one more day. We'll see you Thursday for the live stream at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, in which we can give you even more reaction to Russell Wilson going. But for right now, the thing we're most excited about with Russell Wilson being gone is not having to face him 2 times and finding out that the 49ers could, in fact, get something nice for him. And Cutback Crew, let us know what you think that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, ding dong, the witch is dead, right? I think that's the way we're looking at it. You don't have to go into Seattle and play Russell Wilson. Was it Seattle or was it Russell Wilson? We're going to find out, depending on what they do with these draft picks. I mean, they did get a haul. Can they turn those around, flip them from veteran players? I don't know. More than likely, they're gonna try to rebuild through the draft, but we don't have to rebuild on this podcast because you have been leaving great ratings for us. So thank you for leaving ratings on the audio version. We really appreciate it. That really goes to help the podcast. If you haven't done that already, go ahead and do that for us. We'd really like that. But yeah, the live stream on Thursday is going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into more stuff. Who knows? We might have breaking news if anything jumps off with the 49ers.
It's true.
Jimmy Garoppolo could get moved at any time. So I'm excited about the potential, what's going to happen there. And all the while, we're building towards free agency, where the 49ers are going to fill some holes, and then we're going to get a better idea of what they need to do in the draft.
Really excited about that. Really excited about free agency and everything that has to offer. Make sure you leave in those ratings. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any other episodes. We'll see you for some free agency content at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And until then, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.